Palawan is very skinny and very long island. It's a very skinny island, very narrow. So very near off the shore, it's very deep because the Palawan is like this. It's like this. And it's very long and very skinny like this. So just off the shore, very near off the beach, it's deep. So it's easier. You don't have to go very far to find these oysters. They grow in deeper water. They kind of live in the sand like this, and they live like this. And the water is, they're filter feeders. That means they eat whatever passes through, whatever bacteria. There's a little mouth. It's got a mouth, it's got a foot and a stomach, it's got the shell, it's got the muscle, heart, intestines, digestive gland, all this kind of gonads hinge. And then they release their sperms and egg. And then about after a month or so, the larvae are big enough. They convert to these kind of shell-looking once they settle, then they can grow. Once they're about a year old, then it can grow a pearl, somewhere in there between about a year or so. So that's what the pearl oyster and how they live. You're not really going to find these oysters growing in Manila Bay because it's so dirty and it's so polluted. But in Palawan, they grow very well. That's why the farm is here. That's why it's connected to nature. So let's keep looking. The other thing that we do is, this is the healthy environment essential for the pearl oysters. We manage our mangroves, we manage our seas, we can have bigger pearls. Now the history of pearls is such that many centuries ago, in the freshwater mussels, they would put little Buddha-shaped images, Buddha-shaped beads inside the mussel, and the mussel would just cover the Buddha with nacre.
But it's salsi pearl?
Not for the salsi pearl. Usually for the freshwater mussels. Okay, that's how it started. This is the process of farming a pearl. So in the wild, a little bacteria crawls in. Maybe there's a pearl, maybe not. But we can now, humans, intervene, and we can insert a bead inside the oyster and kind of coax it, kind of force the oyster to make a pearl. In the wild, the natural pearls are all nacre. Maybe the little bacteria in the middle, but that's it. Then the bacteria will die and disintegrate. But in the farm or cultured pearls, there's a bead inside. And even in the end, when you wear the jewelry, your jewelry, like your ring, I think, that's a bead inside. This one? Yeah. There's a bead inside.
Bead inside.
A bead.
But it's also salsi pearl.
Salsi pearl. Because it comes from Pintara Margaritifera.
How we know the cultural pearl natural pearl?
So there are certain ways. So when you're going to make a jewelry, you're going to drill a hole.
Yes.
You can look inside the hole under magnification, under a microscope, and you can see the bead. We'll look later. You'll see it later, and I'll show you a picture. Okay. In the pearl farm, so the first pearl farm, the patent was Kokichi Mikimoto. Maybe you've heard of Mikimoto pearl.
Japanese pearl.
Japan, Japanese pearl. Of course, the story of him, and he was using the Akoya pearl oyster.
Akoya is actually only from Japan.
Or Korea.
Or Korean, not from...
Not from the south, not from Philippines and Indonesia, Malaysia, because it's colder water.
But it's also the good pearl.
Good quality.
Good quality.
Can be very good because they're small and it has a lot healthy oyster.
Okay.
But the producers of salsi pearls coming from Pintara Margaritifera, number 1, Indonesia.
Number 1.
Number 1, Indonesia. Number 2 is Australia. Number 3 is the Philippines. Myanmar, Malaysia, Papua New Guinea. With pearl farms. So it's very important to Philippines. We're number 3 in the world.
In the world. Only 6 countries.
Usually for the salsi pearls, yeah. Well, Tahiti, Cook Islands, but this is the top 6.
Top 6.
Yeah. So I think Solomon Islands, Cook Islands, Vanuatu may have the farm also. French Polynesia, a lot of countries out there, right?
Yeah.
Fiji. So here is the process of the farming. The process of the farming is they're going to seed the oyster and insert a graft. It's a surgery. So what they do is they take the oyster out of the sea, because they usually have them growing in bins. And then they'll take them out of the sea, and they have about 5 minutes. If not, then the oyster will go into shock and can die. So they put it into a bath of anesthesia. They anesthetize the oyster and then they have a little clamp, and they'll prop it open like this, and then the surgeons will go in and make an incision in the gonad sac and insert the bead together with a graft. A graft is a little square piece of another oyster.
Yes.
With the nacre, so that the oyster can take this nacre and start the process of making the pearl, of wrapping the bead with the nacre. If the graft comes from over here, the oyster will be a little bit white. And if the graft comes from here, the color will be a little bit gold. And if the graft comes from here, the color will be a little bit more champagne. So the species of the oyster and the color of the graft will determine the color of the pearl. Then, if the oyster accepts the bead, then they put it back in a cage like this, and they put it back to the sea, and then let them grow. And then the pearl grows around the bead in the same way it would cover the irritant in the wild. It just wraps, which covers it. It's a lining.
Oh, yes.
Okay, it's like part of our skin. Okay, the same like our skin, the oysters has the animal inside, has a lining inside called nacre. So what happens is a foreign substance gets inside the oyster. They used to think it was sand, but it's not. It's usually a little bacteria, like a little bug, will crawl inside and get in between there, in between the shell and the mantle. The little bug will crawl inside. Then the oyster will cover it, okay, and will cover the bacteria, and then cover and cover and keep cover and keep cover.
Until big.
And the pearl gets bigger and bigger and bigger. We have bacteria sometimes under our skin, the human, and we we separate the bacteria, and we encase it. It's like white, like pus. We call it pus, right? And then if it's separated enough, then in the human body, we just go, let's squish out, okay? But the oyster can't squish it out. So it just encase in a hard material until the bugs die inside. But then it keeps on wrap and wrap and wrap with the same material. That's how a pearl is formed. Okay? And the material, this material here, is made out of, here you see, aragonite and conchyolin. So it's a crystal and a protein. We have a similar kind of crystalline material that's formed in bricks like this, our teeth, or our nails like this, the nails, and the human body. The same, this has the hard material. Okay, and protein, like our hair or our skin cells. So that's the thing that binds the things together. So this, this is what the pearl oyster, this is kind of the life of the pearl oyster. Now you know what a pearl is. And let's look at the different kinds of oysters. These are the different oysters. So they're mollusks. When we talk about the different species, silver and golden lipped oyster, Pintara maxima, the biggest, maximum, the biggest size. When we talk about South Sea pearls come from Pintara maxima. If it's not from Pintara maxima, it's not South Sea pearl. So when you ask, what's the definition of a South Sea pearl? Any pearl comes from Pintara maxima. That's Pintara maxima. Golden or silver lipped pearl oyster. This oyster from the sea is what forms Pintara maxima. So what colors do you see? Okay, it's golden lips. What colors do you see in there? Okay.
Gold.
Because gold, golden, South Sea pearls, golden, right?
Golden South Sea.
Okay, white. There's a lot of white over here. Plenty of white, plenty of golden, plenty of like cream color. They call that champagne, right?
So it's original color, not injected color.
That's the color of the oyster.
Oh,
Okay,
but the
color
mold
of
when
oyster.
came out is really champagne or like from the cream color and then they put injected or no?
Usually no.
Usually no.
Usually no. You can polish a little bit. They usually don't dye the pearls. Like put color on, they usually don't.
But really have the champagne color.
Champagne
the
color.
Original color.
It's because of the color of the oyster. Okay. Now there are other oysters. Here's another oyster. This is another kind of oyster. This is called Pintara Margaritifera, okay? Or black-lipped pearl oyster, Pintara Margaritifera. This one grows in a different climate, a different culture, a different area, plus a different temperature of the water, plus they're in shallower water. This grows more in what's called atoll, You know, an atoll, like a big, like a bay that's not so deep.
Oh.
Atoll. Like Tahiti has all those kind of atoll. These also grow very well in Sri Lanka. You've heard of Ceylon pearls, Sri Lanka pearls. Very popular, comes from this oyster. Okay, so now what color is it? You see it's a different color.
Yes.
This one, golden, black.
Like Tahitian Pearl.
Tahitian pearls come from this oyster.
Ah.
South Sea pearls come from this oyster. It's a different oyster. It's black,
Actually, the
silver.
the quality is the same good quality, but the only different type,
Different color,
different color, different
Different size.
type of oyster.
different oyster, yeah. But the material is the same, nacre and nacre. It's the same.
Nacre and material is the same, and
the
quality also good the same, just the
Could
different.
be a better quality from this one than from this one. Depends on the health of the oyster.
Half of oyster.
Health. If it's a healthy oyster,
Yeah, yeah.
it can be a healthy, strong, thick nacre pearl. Okay? Depends on the health of the oyster. So now what determines, now there's other kinds of oysters. This is Koya pearl oyster, Pintara fukata.
Korea.
Korea, Japan.
Korea and Japan also good have good pearl.
Good pearls because they come from this oyster, Pintara fukata. It's smaller,
Yes.
usually smaller oyster. You see the size of the oyster compared? The size of the oyster is smaller, but it has a usually very strong because the water's cold water usually has more food to eat.
I see.
Okay? Just like in the cold water, when there's a cold water flow, we'll have a lot of food. And so in comes the bacteria, in comes the fish, in comes the sharks, in comes the everything. Yeah. The killer whale and the seals and all kinds of animals because of the color of the temperature of the water. This is another oyster, usually produced mabe pearl. It's a different oyster, wing pearl oyster. So let's look at where they are here. This is the distribution. Okay. When we talk about South Sea pearl, this Pintara maxima, mostly grows in South China Sea.
Oh, yes.
South China Sea.
Yes.
Okay, that's why they call it South Sea pearl, South China Sea. Okay, so that includes Indonesia, Malaysia, okay, Thailand, okay, even here in Hong Kong, off Hong Kong, sometimes they have Macau, but not so much because it's a different kind of area. But definitely Philippines, certainly Indonesia, all of Australia. Now this oyster will grow, the Tahitian pearl, it grows off in the little islands in Tahiti. But it also grows here in the Bay of Bengal. Okay, that's India, Sri Lanka, a lot of this Pintara Margaritifera, this one, the black lipped.
Like in France, like Tahitian Pearl.
In Tahitian pearl, yes, Tahiti. In where? French Polynesia.
Yeah.
French Polynesia, yeah.
It's almost it's black pearl, right?
Black pearls, because it comes from this oyster. It's a different oyster.
I see.
So now there are other animals which produce nacre, which don't produce pearls. Here's an animal. This is called abalone. Okay, this is abalone. Maybe you've heard of abalone. Okay, these also have nacre, but they don't produce pearl.
Yes.
Because of the shape of the animal. It's not like this. It doesn't have two valves. It has a side like this. There are other animals that has two shells like this. This is a clam. Okay. Here's an example of a clam. This also will produce a pearl because the animal is inside and the water passed through. Okay. But when you look inside of a clam, there's no nacre.
No nacre.
Right? Like the difference. Like look at this and look at this. This one is shiny already.
Yeah.
Gemstone. This is not shiny. There's no gemstone. It's like porcelaneous. It has that kind of crystal, like your tooth material, but there's no nacre. It's not shiny. So this will produce pearl, but they're not shiny like gemstone.
This will produce pearl also.
Produce pearls. Clam pearls, yeah. Now here's another animal which also can be produced pearl, but very rare. These are called gastropods. You've heard of seen these?
He also have pearl.
Can also have pearl, but very rare, very difficult because it has a foot at the bottom, a foot, just to move around a little bit like a starfish.
Yes.
And so it can get inside, bacteria can get inside, but very difficult.
Very difficult.
And so these can be very valuable. Conch pearls, very expensive, very rare,
very
valuable. But they're no nacre also. The shiny, and it's kind of orange material, the orange kind of flame-like, we can see conch pearls, but they're very rare. Now here, let me show you one more thing. This has nacre also. This is a different animal. This is called a freshwater mussel. Okay, freshwater mussel. It's not an oyster, it's a mussel. A little bit different, but these, the same, they grow like this. These are freshwater, so they grow in the river and the lake.
Not from the sea.
Not from the sea.
Only river and lake.
Rivers and lakes. So they're easy to catch. You just go into the river and you just scoop them up. Easy
and have
to
so many.
and can produce many pearls on one shell. Well, the oyster will generally produce one pearl per oyster. Okay. So now we see supply and demand, right? That's how much supply and how much is the demand will determine the price. Because it's very difficult to harvest these oysters because it's in the sea and you have to go down a little bit deeper and they're only one pearl per oyster, so usually more expensive.
Yeah.
Then if you want to say the bigger the pearl, the more expensive. If it's Pintara maximum, the biggest, the most expensive. Usually come from Pintara maxima.
Maxima.
This is the one that grows the best in Philippines, in Thailand, in Malaysia, and Indonesia, Australia, is this oyster. Okay. So now you saw the up to 50 pearls in one freshwater mussel, different from the oyster. When we talk about this is the Erawan Eco Park, this building Eco Park, because if you go inside, further inside to the park, it's a protected forest. Protected forest. No cutting trees, no mining, no garbage, no overnight stay. It's a protected forest. If we protect our forest with the trees will soak up the silt and dirt from the mud when it rains, which covers it. It's a lining.
Oh, yes.
Okay? It's like part of our skin. Okay, the same like our skin, the oysters has the animal inside, has a lining inside called nacre. So what happens is a foreign substance gets inside the oyster. They used to think it was sand, but it's not. It's usually a little bacteria, like a little bug will crawl inside and get in between the shell and the mantle, the little bug will crawl inside. Then the oyster will cover it, okay, and will cover the bacteria, and then cover and cover and keep cover and keep cover.
Until big.
And the pearl gets bigger and bigger and bigger. We have bacteria sometimes under our skin, the human, and we then we'll we separate the bacteria, and we encase it. It's like white, like pus. We call it pus, right? And then if it's separated enough, then in the human body we just go. Let's squish out, okay? But the oyster can't squish it out. So it just encase in a hard material until the bugs die inside. But then it keeps on wrap and wrap and wrap with the same material. That's how a pearl is formed, okay? And the material, this material here, is made out of, here you see, aragonite and conchyline. So it's a crystal and a protein. We have a similar kind of crystalline material that's formed in bricks like this, our teeth, or our nails like this, the nails, and the human body. The same, this has the hard material. Okay, and protein, like our hair or our skin cells. So that's the thing that binds the things together. So this, this is what the pearl oyster, this is kind of the life of the pearl oyster. Now you know what a pearl is. And let's look at the different kinds of oysters. These are the different oysters. So they're mollusks.
Because most people don't know and they like the round and perfect, no fish bite.
Right.
But if the good perfect one, it should have some fish bite.
Right.
It's the real.
Yeah, it can still be very good. And so then these are some myths about the pearls growing or them multiplying. These are not really true stories, but we like to say it. And then this is called the Pearl of Allah. The largest pearl in the world was found in Palawan. The largest pearl in the world was found in Palawan. Okay. But, so it's 24 centimeters. It's like this big. Okay. It's big like this, big pearl like this. But it's not actually a gemstone. It comes from a giant, this is a giant clam. That's a giant clam. So the pearl came, there's no nacre. So there's no nacre. There's no shiny material on the inside. So it's like porcelaneous material, and it's big like this. So it's actually not a gemstone, because a gemstone is for jewelry. So if it's 24 centimeters, then 6.4 is not, you're going to wear it as an earring, but it's not, so not really a gemstone. But it is the largest pearl found in Palawan. How important is the pearl in the Philippines? It's even on the back of our money. The 1,000 peso note, South Sea Pearl, Pintara Maxima, together with the Tubataha reefs, is its connection to nature. So that's how important. It's very important to our economy, and very important to our to the Philippines and all kinds of history and heritage. Let's go look at some jewelry.
Okay.
You know what the nacre is and what it looks like, and the different. Okay, so when you scratch the two pearls together, you can feel the bricks. You can feel that it's gritty, different from if you rub two plastic together. It's very smooth. So why? Because of how the colors and how the bricks are put together. And so this is the use of the mother of different mollusks. Here's again the jewelry and the necklaces, or all kinds of different shapes and different colors. And before plastic, all of the buttons, button in our shirt, were usually made from mother of pearl. And so there are some people who would decorate all of their clothes with pearl buttons. So that's kind of another thing. Using to decorate furniture and this kind of thing. Utensils. And also in the guitar head, in the guitar, at the top, the guitar frets, the inlay is usually mother of pearl. And so that's different uses of the mother of pearl for all kinds of different uses. Here is a display of the use of mother of pearl in from different countries, like in Bethlehem. There's a very popular and very famous use of mother of pearl inlaying different artistic work. So all of this section is about mother of pearl. And here in Bangkok, Thailand, the reclining Buddha at the feet. So the Polynesians, the Australians, the use of mother of pearl throughout history. And this is our that's the end of our tour. I hope you enjoyed. You saw the marine biology section where we learned about the oyster. We saw the jewelry section. We learned about some jewelry and the pearls and looking inside the pearl itself. And this is the mother of pearl section. So that's our tour. You're welcome to look around. If you have any questions, let me know.
Yes.
In the meantime, let's go back. And if you'd like, I have a cup
It's
of coffee.
really clear.
Palestine, they would say that the value of two pearls that's the same size and the same color is more expensive than each individual pearl. Okay, so if you have two separate pearls, one is worth 100 whatever, and this one is worth 100. But if they're the same size and the same shape and the same color, then each one might be worth 150. So instead of 100, 100, and then the total 200, if they're exactly the same size and color and shape, maybe the two would be 300. You understand? So but you see, this is a little
cheaper.
bigger. This can be a little bit less if you buy the two, because they're different size,
Yeah.
different
But
color. This is a little bit darker color. This is a little bit lighter color. More luster, less luster, but bigger and smaller. Okay. And sometimes the smaller pearls has more luster.
more luster.
Sometimes. It just depends on the oyster.
Yes.
Depends on the farm. It depends on the graft. It depends on the surgeon of the insert the bead, everything. But very nice.
Very nice.
Yeah, nice piece.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Cultural. Just like your skin. Your skin, like in the human body,
Sweat.
sweat, and you rub it and you wash.
And
you wash
what
off.
about the real pearl, natural and high quality, but it affect to those things or not? Like a perfume, lotion, still affected.
Everything with nacre.
Need to be care and avoid with perfume,
Yeah,
lotion,
perfume, lotion.
even the high quality one.
High quality, low
Still-
quality, any kind of pearl with nacre will affect the lotion or the alcohol or the
Alcohol.
perfume.
Even alcohol. Because I when I go to Manila, most of the seller when clean the pearl, they use alcohol to clean the pearl.
You sure?
Yeah, and they because
No, you should just use a lot of water with a little bit soap.
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 So the way can clean the pearl, we can use water.
Water.
Water, good. And
Best is rainwater because it's not a lot of, or like a bottled water.
bottle water.
Yeah, which just doesn't have the minerals.
Oh,
no
so
chemicals, no
pearl
mineral.
can clean only with mineral water.
And a little bit soap.
Soap. Also. Soap also can.
Yeah, but a little bit drop soap, and a big lot of
Because
water.
I see them clean, they use the alcohol, and then I asked them how to clean. They said you can use alcohol to clean that, but I not yet try it. No, maybe
Almost
not.
not necessary. Almost not necessary.